All right, and we're on. So, hi, Anita, and for everyone joining us today, this is Anita Bongers-Lewis, and she is a realtor and a very successful real estate investor, and she also teaches others how to invest in real estate as well. And maybe, Anita, you can give us a bit more of an introduction and share with us what you'll be talking to us about today.
Sure. So I have been a real estate investor now for about 6 years, and a realtor for a little less than that. I became an investor first and enjoyed it so much that I became a realtor after that. So essentially what I do, my husband and I, we buy investment properties. So usually we like to buy a bungalow, convert it into 2 units. So you have 2 legal apartments, rent them out. So sort of a buy and hold strategy. And we like to find properties where we can take their highest and best use to be able to increase, to get the most rent, to make it cash flow. It's something we decided to do to create basically our own pension. We will not get pensions, nor will our child be able to afford a house when she's old enough to buy one. So we thought this is our best way to secure a future for her and for us to create a pension for ourselves, because as we know, we can't always rely on employers, as right now is telling us. Sometimes things happen that are out of our control. So having a 9-to-5 employed job wasn't always going to be the best answer for us. So we brought that into our portfolio, and I loved it. So I decided to become a real estate agent as well. And that's what I do now, is I help investor clients find properties for that purpose. I do residential as well, and we do a lot of residential as well. But I definitely have a niche doing the investment properties, and we do commercial, we do, multifamily, a little bit of everything, but our sweet spot is definitely converting a bungalow into 2 units. And yeah, that's what I've been doing for a while now, and really happy to do it. It's really good to see what people gain from it. The wealth growth for families is amazing.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah. And so I think you mentioned that you have some tips to share with us today, just because of the current climate and and everything going on. You have some tips that you can share on how to save money.
So from a real estate perspective, the ways to, I guess, reduce your expenses however you can if the budget's a little tighter than it would normally be.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is to look at your primary residence if you own your home. If you own your home, find out or check how much equity you have within that home, and you might be able to gain access to that. So sometimes the bank will give you a line of credit on your house so that you have some money to live off of for the next little while, or they'll let you refinance it. So get a new mortgage and pull out some of that value of the home in cash. That can be an option quite often, but you still have to keep 20% of the value in the house though. So those are 2 ways just to create funds to live off of if that's something that you need to do. Conversely, what you can also do is you can defer your mortgage for a lot of homeowners. Not everyone can. I know people think everyone can. It's not as black and white as that, but many people can defer your mortgage. So it may be worth talking to your lender about doing that, because it's great not to have a mortgage payment. For most of us, that's our largest payment every month. Mm-hmm. Or at least saying maybe I can defer part of my payment. Maybe I'll pay only interest or something like that. Or a skip a payment option is sometimes an option with lenders. So I would talk to them and find out what those options are. Be prepared to wait on hold a fair bit right now. It's a little slow there. But you want to think about that and be a little cautious. Make sure it's the right choice for you, because do know that as soon as you say you get 6 months of deferral, when those 6 months are over, that interest now is going to get tacked onto your mortgage payments. So your monthly mortgage payment is going to increase, or the term of your mortgage. They may re-amortize your mortgage. So you may now, maybe you only had 10 years left in your mortgage, and maybe they're going to tack on, 6 months at the end. We're not clear how they're going to handle it. It's best to talk to your lender about that. Mm-hmm. Review, so anything that you have that's a typical payment. So if you have a line of credit that has a balance on it, see if they'll defer those payments for a little while for you, so you don't have to pay those payments. Same with phone bill, utilities, property taxes. You can contact any of these, and a lot of those providers are allowing reduced payments, skip payments, deferral of payments, things like that. Really keep a running tally though, and understand how each of these things is going to affect you, because if you can afford to pay it and you're just not paying it, might shock you a little bit when you get that balance at the end there. You do want to try to keep within your means as much as possible to make it not so crazy at the end of the day. And then review with your utility provider, with hydro especially, like peak times aren't being observed anymore everywhere. So you may want to be more cognizant. Obviously, we're home all day, most of us, so utilities will be used, but you may want to do your laundry at a specific time, things like that, just to reduce costs there. Be smart about your water use, things like that. Those would be the ways I'd really look at trying to reduce your expenses right now, or at least defer them to a later date, but realize you're deferring. You aren't getting off scot-free. Nothing, unfortunately, in life is free. But look and see if that makes the most sense for you, just to get through this time, because we don't know how long it's going to be. Similarly, if you have a car payment, that's another good example. Maybe with a lease or a car payment, they'll give you some leeway to skip a couple of payments. So I would do that. It's a bit time consuming, but it can be very much worthwhile.
It's definitely worth finding out, I think. And also they're kind of going day by day as well, it seems. So it's not, like you said, black and white. There's a lot of gray in there. So there's a good chance that they'll be able to help, at least in some way, right?
More than likely, realize if it's the bank you're calling for your mortgage payment, if it's the same bank where you hold all of your other banking, they can see your financial picture. So they can be like, well, I actually see you have $40,000 sitting in your bank account right now. I don't think you need to defer quite yet.
True.
And always ask. Actually, one big question to ask is, or not ask unless they ask you, just be careful if they're asking you to declare financial hardship.
Oh, okay.
If they ask you that question, ask, okay, and if you do opt for deferral, how will that affect my credit? How would that affect my future borrowing opportunities? Is this something that could affect me in the long run? So for my investors, it can be significant, because the deferral of payments means that interest gets tacked on their mortgage payments later on. And for us, we work with something called our debt service ratio, which helps us qualify for mortgages. So it's just our expenses, it is our debts to our income, right? So if I have 10 properties and each of them goes up by $50 a month on those mortgage payments, that's increasing my expenses by quite a bit, right? So that may make it harder for me to qualify for another property if I'm going to purchase another property, or even a lease for a car or a loan or things like that. You do want to look long term. People in a situation like this can be short-sighted sometimes because we're scared.
No, that's a good point. So I mean, as far as the climate right now, there's definitely some negative, but what do you see happening in real estate in the future because of this? Are there maybe some beneficial things coming up for us?
There's going to be a bit of all of those things, kind of the good, bad, and the ugly, and everything in between. So my primary market is Durham, but I'm also in Peterborough, Lindsay, Northumberland, all those markets. The reality of what we're going to see and are seeing right now is some people have to sell and some people have to buy. Regardless of a state of emergency, people have to buy and sell houses. Not everybody. Some people can hold off, but that's why realtors were declared an essential service. And I know there's a lot of, unfortunately, realtor shaming going on out there for the realtors who are still working sometimes. But the reality is that we're not looking for new business. We are trying to service the people who have to do what they have to do. So in my market, what's been happening before this, so in January and February, there's bidding wars for so many properties. So what somebody would do is they'd purchase first and then they'd list their house because they needed to make sure they had a house that they could move into, and then they could hope to get multiple offers on their home. Well, there's those few people who got stuck. They've purchased and now they have to sell, and it's a really crummy time because they don't want people coming through their house for showings and things like that.
Right.
And similarly, there's the reverse, and there's people that have to buy right now. So we're definitely servicing that. And unfortunately, there will be people who will meet with financial hardship and have to sell simply because some people will full on lose jobs because companies will shut down over this. Small businesses may shut down over this. So we are servicing that to the best of our abilities. So what we've seen so far is that obviously the number of showings has dropped drastically because people don't want to go out and see houses, and no one's going to do it just out of curiosity anymore. There's a limited number of buyers. Now there's fewer buyers in the market because people financially can't, or they're too scared to buy right now. There's still a lot of listings. I don't know if that'll stay, but there's still quite a lot of listings and a lot of sales happening. So the market's still chugging along, but we're not seeing bidding wars like we were before. And with fewer showings, housing prices are probably going to slip down a little bit. I don't think a lot. We're talking, at its worst, maybe 15%, which is significant, but I don't think we're talking 20-25% price reductions, nothing crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say the last time prices went down, like 19%. Last time we had a big dip, right? So they're not anticipating it's going to be worse, as bad as that. So there will be some opportunities, especially for people who need to buy and have the means and are still working. There'll be opportunities to buy properties.
Mm-hmm.
It's likelier to be more the entry level type of product, so not the big expensive houses, but more the simpler sort of lower price points, because those are likely the people who are living within their means, and their means were a little bit smaller than the people in the fancier houses.
Mm-hmm.
Not always true though. Some people live well beyond their means, even in those fancy houses.
Mm-hmm.
So that's likely what we're going to see over the next little while. And we know we're going to hit a spike in sort of how COVID has hit us in the next 2 weeks. So I imagine the next 2 weeks might be a little bit different, but there'll be opportunities. I just don't think there's going to be the opportunity to have the bidding wars that people had before. And in our market anyways, prices were getting a little out of control in
Mm-hmm.
January and February. And I think if anything, I don't consider this so much of a bubble bursting or anything, so much as things will correct a little bit, I think, where there won't be so much competition from buyers, and prices will come down a little bit and level out a little bit. And we're looking at this as just a pause in the market right now. I have every belief that it'll pick right back up as soon as we get a solid all clear for, a period of 3 to 4 months.
Mm-hmm. Do you foresee it becoming more of a buyer's market for quite a while then, closer to the end of this, or?
I think so, but that, again, anything can happen. The one thing COVID has taught us is that nothing's a guarantee, and we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
We were talking before, and I feel like we live in a movie right now. This probably will be a movie eventually.
Yeah.
For sure. But it's really hard to say, but I do think there's probably going to be some buyer opportunities coming down the pipe, because of, unfortunately, there'll be motivated sellers. And there are people who are in a really good position right now, even though, financially, not necessarily health-wise, but financially, who will be able to take some opportunities that come their way. And a lot of my clients are investors, and that's kind of where their mindset is at. I do caution people to say, it's like the stock market. You're waiting for the bottom, and then you miss your opportunity as well. So I think, don't be scared to look, and also be aware that we're doing things very differently now than we ever used to. So real estate as a profession is changing every day drastically. Everything is digital and virtual now. To even get a showing at a property, you'll go through quite a bit of screening before that seller is going to be comfortable with you even going through their house. So for me, like, if I'm listing your property for sale, I'm assuring you these are the procedures we do before anyone could ever see your house, like enter your house, because it's a health thing. Like we are not about just doing business. We are trying to keep everybody safe and everyone happy. So things like, make sure, did you watch the virtual tour? Did you see all the pictures? Let's run through any questions you have about the house before we ever go in. Because if there's already a deal breaker, we're not risking anyone's health in going in. Right. And then a lot of times they're asking you to fill out a form saying, I haven't traveled in the last 14 days. I don't have a cough or cold. I haven't been around anyone who's tested positive. All these things, because we have to protect people. And then we even have a discussion about, okay, it's listed at this price. Are you thinking you're going to try to come in and bid like $70,000 under? Like, if that's really what you're thinking, we need to talk to the other agent first and see if the seller's even going to consider that. Because if you're not even willing to come to a price that they're ever going to be willing to agree on, let's not do this showing again and expose people. And right. It's not trying to get the highest dollar, it's trying to get the least amount of exposure for people. And sometimes we'll even get the sellers to live chat with us and say, okay, my client's on, we got a 3-way WhatsApp or whatever. Okay, walk through the house and let my buyer look at everything. Or I'll say to my seller, okay, we're all on the phone together. Let's walk through, do a walk through the house, all of us together right now, and get every question answered before we do the showing. And then we can do the showing. When we do the showing, the seller would obviously be out of the house and their family would be out of the house. But what they do is they will lock the front door, but every door inside the house will be open and all lights will be on. So there's no need to touch anything while we're in the house. Only
Right.
I have to touch the lockbox to get the keys and the front door handle to open it. And I'll wear gloves for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then keys and everything go back in the lockbox. We don't leave business cards anymore because that's, again, something that would have potentially something on it. We don't
Mm-hmm.
pick up feature sheets at the house anymore, nothing. You don't
Right.
touch a thing. You walk through, you do your thing, and you come out. You keep it brief, you keep it simple, and then I Lysol wipe the two handles that I touched, and on we go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really different industry now. It's changing a lot, but it'll change forever. People need to also be aware that this is going to, maybe not the Lysol wipes and everything being quite that crazy, but this is going to be the new norm where things are very digital, very virtual. And some people are even putting in offers without seeing the property, putting in a condition saying it's conditional on me seeing the property when I do my home inspection.
Right.
Because they're sure they want the property, but they'd rather get it under contract before going out to see it because of their concerns about COVID. There's a lot of options.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Wow. It's quite the procedure, but yeah, it's good that you guys are taking such precautions. I'm sure that helps to comfort people at least that still need, the service. So that's good.
It's the biggest fear for sellers is having people in their house. And even so, with me having so many investor clients, like another option I have if you're going to sell your house is if I have a vacant unit or one of my investors has a vacant unit right now that's not filled. Mm-hmm. Okay, do you want to rent it for 1 month? You'll have to move a little bit of your furniture over there to stay in it, but you can stay in a rental unit and no one's in your house. So you don't have to be there if there are any showings or anything else going on. Mm-hmm. Because you can stay in a short, or some people have the short-term Airbnb rentals, which are not getting used right now, right? Mm-hmm. They're small businesses. I'm happy to support that small business and say to my client, why don't you just stay in an Airbnb? Mm-hmm. Just get assured from the host that no one's staying in there for the 4 or 5 days before you go in there, even including a cleaner. No one's been in there. Mm-hmm. You go in and you stay there. It's likely worth the expense because people will more easily see your house if it's empty.
Right.
Like it's a lot easier for us to show the vacant houses. And that may make all the difference, right? So there's a lot of options and I love supporting other small businesses, right? So other landlords and small businesses. So it's a win-win.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions for you, is there somewhere, where could they reach you then if they had questions?
Sure. Email or phone are fine. I'm pretty reachable right now. You might hear a 4-year-old yelling in the background, but I'm around. So my email is anita@doorstowealth.com. Or you can reach out to me. Cell phone is 416-209-8660. Even just a chat about your fears. Some people think they have to sell and maybe they really don't. Don't think a realtor is always going to talk you into selling. You just need to know what your options are and make an informed decision. It's the most important. And then totally aside from that, not my business at all, but we need to support small businesses any way we can. So reach out to any small business that in your community and just ask how you can help, whether it's a Google review or buying a gift card as a gift for someone else, anything. Let's support our small businesses in our area as well, because I think that's really important right now.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you. So I'll put your contact information in the description of the post as well. So if anyone wants to reach out, they can have your information readily available.
Perfect.
So thank you so much for spending the time with us today and sharing all your information. It was really helpful. I'm sure it'll be a help to a lot of people in the group. And hopefully we'll have you back on sometime in the future as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Jane.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye.